So today we're going to be reading Little Lady of Phantomhive Manor. We are currently in chapter 8, but we're going to go back a chapter for the purpose of thy recap, guys. So basically, sorry, my microphone. Sorry, guys. I ironed my hair, so it's probably going to hit the microphone a little bit, so I apologize. I'll show y'all guys a pic. This is what I look like with my hair all nice and ironed out. I don't really iron my hair often, but when I do, it's usually just to see how long my hair truly is, and to try and like get used to my hair, you know, once in a while. When I want to let it ironed, I will. I ironed it myself. I just did it because I was bored. Being basically locked in your own house for a couple days does stuff, so I just ironed my hair for fun. So anyways, continuing this recap, we're currently in the study, a CL study he's with us, Angelina, I best he called us. He calls us Angelina. So, Sebastian decides to teach CL how to take care of a baby, you know, changing diapers, changing clothes, doing this, doing that, other things, but how to take care of the baby. Remember, I think a chapter or two earlier, they bought her clothes. So, yeah. And at the end of it, after Sebastian helped CL learn and all that and verify and everything, he was like, Sebastian was like, you make quite I'm sorry. You make a fine mommy, my lord. It was so funny. I was like, what the hell? So, and then, yeah, CL embarrassed, whatever. But, yeah, basically it's CL learning how to take care of a child, a baby. So, yeah, that's the main of the chapter. Freaking hilarious, in my opinion. Anywho, we are now in these warnings. So there are going to be some warnings, not too many for this chapter. There will be some like cult-ish things going on here. Greedy man, think of him like Odin from Ragnarok, scaring people into submission just to have power, and other details. There will be dog abuse / description of like dogs being beaten in this, so it's gonna get a little bit sad. Yeah. There will be a lot of murders and bodies mentioned, and you know, body descriptions and all that. There will be people whipping people. There will be like a burning house, you're in it, mentions. Yeah, it's pretty bad. If you know Black Butler, angels equal bad in this, so there will be an angel mentioned in this as well. And within the dream, it goes along with the burning house and all that, cleansing and whatever. And I'm pretty sure that's everything I'll need to know. If there's any more warnings that I completely forgot to let you guys know about, they will be on the screen right now. Y'all have been warned. Chapter 8. CL let out a short yawn as he continued on his piles of paperwork. Ever since Sebastian finished his little lessons, CL had been working on catching up with his work. Angelina was laying on CL's lap and leaning against his stomach. CL kept one arm around her while using the other to work. "Pardon the intrusion, young master," Sebastian said, entering the study. "What is it, Sebastian?" CL asked without looking up from the papers. "I finished drawing your bath." Sebastian said with a small bow. Huh? Sebastian said confused for a moment. Excuse me. Huh? CL said confused for a moment. He turned to look outside to see it was dark out and the moon was up. It's night already? Yes, Sebastian said. The sun went down a fair few hours ago. Then again, given your new responsibility, I can understand losing track of time. CL looked down at Angelina, who was still sleeping. Shall we then? Sebastian said, standing aside and gesturing for the door. Yes. CL said, standing up and heading for the door. On the way to the bathroom, CL gently shook Angelina until she woke up. All right, Sebastian said as they entered the bathroom. If you'll get in, I'll get the soaps. Get out, Sebastian. CL said, cutting him off. Master? Sebastian questioned. Did I stutter? CL said as he placed Angelina down on the counter. Get out. Give us some privacy. Yes, young master. All right, interesting. Sebastian said, giving his signature bow and leaving. Bathing himself now. Sebastian asked himself after shutting the door, what is that baby doing to him? Making him into an adult and not a little baby, but... CL sighed as he started to take off both his and Angelina's clothes. Once their clothes were off, CL picked up Angelina and carefully got into the tub filled with warm water. Angelina giggled as she started to play with the bubbles around them. CL couldn't help the small smile that came onto his face at her excitement over something so small. CL carefully started to wash Angelina's hair, being sure not to get any shampoo in her eyes. He gently placed his hand over her eyes as he poured water over her head to rinse out the suds. Angelina just giggled again. CL continued to wash himself and Angelina before stepping out of the tub and wrapping them both of them in towels. He let the water go down the drain before sitting down on the edge of the tub with Angelina in his lap. She just kept giggling as CL dried her off. He laid her down on the counter again and placed a clean diaper on her before putting on his nightshirt. Just as he was dressing Angelina in her nightgown, there was a knock on the door. Come in, CL said as he finished dressing Angelina and held her in his arms once more. Sorry to disturb, young master, Sebastian said, walking in with a silver tray and a letter on top, but you've received a letter from the Queen. CL took the letter from the tray and opened it and read it over. It looked like the Queen needed some help with a small town called Houndsworth. We'll have to head out as soon as possible, CL said, handing the letter to Sebastian and walking out the door. CL entered his bedroom to see a tray of Angelina's milk was waiting. Okay. He walked over, grabbed the bottle, and sat down on the bed. Angelina happily began to drink. When she was done, she yawned a little. CL let out a small chuckle and set her bottle down. CL rocked her ever so slightly in his arms as he walked over to the crib Sebastian had put together after their trip to town. He looked from side to side to make sure no one was looking, especially the bloody demon, before placing a small peck on her forehead. How sweet, Sebastian said, suddenly appearing in the doorway. Be quiet, CL whisper yelled as he placed Angelina in her crib and walked over to his bed and laid down for the night. That is super freaking cute, I'm not gonna lie to you. Chapter 9. Sebastian silently walked through the manor as he pushed the cart with CL's morning tea and newspaper and milk for Angelina. Sebastian opened CL's bedroom door expecting CL to be still asleep, but he was surprised to see CL already up and putting a clean diaper on Angelina. Young master? Sebastian said in slight surprise. Good timing, Sebastian, CL said as he finished changing Angelina and picked her up. Huh? Sebastian said, confused for a moment. Angelina's milk, CL said. She's hungry. Oh, of course, Sebastian said, handing over the bottle. CL sat on his bed and held the bottle up to Angelina's mouth, who started to drink happily. I trust you have made sure my schedule will be clear for the next few days, CL said, watching Angelina. Of course, young master, Sebastian said. We should be ready to head to Houndsworth on the morrow. On the morrow, okay? Good, CL said. And my schedule for today? Nothing but some paperwork, Sebastian said, preparing CL a cup of Earl Grey tea. He sure loves that tea, man. CL let out a faint hum of acknowledgement as Angelina finished off her milk. He handed the bottle to Sebastian and took the small dress he was holding in his hand. CL changed Angelina out of her nightgown and into the dress before Sebastian dressed him for the day as well. CL headed down to the dining room, where his breakfast was waiting, with Angelina in his arms. "Gather the servants, Sebastian," CL said after sitting down. "I need to tell them something important." "Yes, young master," Sebastian said, placing his hand over his heart and slightly bowing before leaving the room. A minute later, the servants were lined up near CL as he ate his breakfast and held Angelina in his lap. "You wanted to talk to us, young master?" Mayrin said nervously as she tapped her index fingers together. "Yes," CL said without looking at them. "I'm letting you know that we will be going on a trip tomorrow." "Huh?" The servant said in surprise. "We will be going to the Queen's new resort," CL said. "She needs me to take care of a few issues. I've decided that you will be joining us." "Thank you, young master," the servants all exclaimed before dashing out of the dining room. CL sighed. "They can be so hard to deal with sometimes," he said to himself. "Isn't that right?" He looked down at Angelina and placed his hand gently on her head. She only giggled and hugged his hand in response. Chapter 10. "Holiday, holiday, we're on a holiday!" The servants cheerfully sang from a horse-drawn buggy that was followed behind a coach that carried CL, Angelina, and Sebastian, who was driving. "Listen to those happy voices," Sebastian said. "The young master was very kind to invite them along." "Oh, be quiet," CL said, waving Sebastian off while holding a sleeping Angelina. "I'd rather not leave those four alone at the manor for long. It'll likely be in shambles when we came back." "Whatever you say, my lord," Sebastian said with his signature smirk. After a while, the group arrived at Houndsworth. The servants all gaped at the empty and spooky-looking place. The trees looked dead, with dog collars hanging from the branches by chains. "I thought we were going to the Queen's resort," Bard said. "Oh, right. I forgot to mention." CL said, turning to face the servants. "I'm here to discuss land agreements. The actual resort won't be built for a while." All the servants sighed. The ride through town was quiet for the most part. A few people were out training and some playing with their dogs. This, of course, led to Sebastian stating his distaste for them. Before long, they all ended up on top of a hill where a large mansion sat. A lovely young maid with light purple hair exited the mansion and walked towards the carriages. About this time, Angelina started to wake up and yawn. "Lord Phantomhive?" the maid questioned. "Yes," Sebastian confirmed. "Welcome," the maid said with a bow as CL stood up from his seat. "I am Angela. I am Angela, head maid. I will take you to my master now." All I gotta say is, guys, I watched this episode and I remember being so mad, and it was so funny too. I'm not gonna spoil nothing though. CL and Sebastian followed Angela inside as the servants stayed behind to take care of the luggage. Angela led them to a room where she stepped in first. After a moment, loud lashes were heard. CL and Sebastian entered the room to see the Lord Barrymore whipping Angela. "I asked you to bring me the Queen's guard dog," he yelled. "Who is this Chihuahua?" "Chihuahua?" Sebastian questioned. Suddenly, Angelina started to cry. The whipping was scaring her. "No doubt it might have been causing a flashback, Sebastian," CL said sternly as he tried to calm Angelina. "Yes, sir," Sebastian said before taking a hold of Lord Barrymore's wrist, stopping him from whipping Angela anymore. CL was able to draw Barrymore's attention to him and started talking about the property in Houndsworth. Angelina didn't like Barrymore at all. After seeing him whip someone, she became terrified of him. CL did his best to keep Angelina calm as he talked to Lord Barrymore. "I won't sell, Barrymore. I can't. Not with the curse." "Curse?" CL asked, interested. "The curse of the demon hound," Barrymore said. "The creature destroys all who goes against the Barrymore's name." "Sounds interesting," CL said with a small smirk. "Huh?" Barrymore said in confusion. "Well, you might try to use this curse to scare me off," CL said. "Truly, it only makes me want to stay more." "I'd watch your tongue, boy," Barrymore said, "lest you heed the curse. Any and all of you will be wiped out by the demon hound, even that little one there." He pointed at Angelina. She whimpered and snuggled closer to CL. CL gently patted her head as he glared at Barrymore. "No curse will scare away a Phantomhive," CL said. Lord Barrymore just became more and more angry until CL and Sebastian left to go to CL's room. Angela silently led them to there while looking at the floor. "I hope you'll be comfortable," she said with a bow. CL nodded before entering his room with Sebastian trailing behind. CL and Angelina's bags were already inside. CL sat in a chair near the fireplace as Sebastian began to unpack. Angelina started to whimper and cry out a little. "Sebastian, Angelina needs her milk," CL said. "Right away, my lord," Sebastian said, quickly preparing a bottle and handing it to CL. CL held the bottle towards Angelina until she started drinking. While in the middle of feeding her, they heard a knock at the door. "Come in," CL said. Angela entered the room looking timid. "Please, young Phantomhive, I beg of you to leave this place," she said fearfully. "Oh, why is that?" CL asked, not feeling that interested. "I fear the demon hound will surely come after you and the child," Angela said. "There is no—" Before CL could finish his sentence, they were all shocked at the loud sound from outside and a huge shadow appearing on the window. Angelina cried in fear. "Sebastian," CL explained as he held Angelina close. Sebastian quickly ran up to the window and pulled the curtains back. There was nothing to be seen outside. "What was that?" CL asked. Suddenly, they saw a crowd form outside the mansion. CL, Sebastian, and Angela quickly headed out to see what was going on. Bard, Finny, Mariana, and Tanaka followed shortly after in their night attire. "Angela, you must get Lord Barrymore," one of the villagers exclaimed. "The demon hound has struck again." "Who was the punished one?" Angela asked with a shaking voice. CL held Angelina closer as they headed into town towards the murder scene. Oh, Lord. We know where this goes. Chapter 11. CL, Sebastian, the servants, and the villagers all were gathered around a man who had been gruesomely murdered. He was covered in blood and bites. Angelina whimpered in fear. CL held her close and kept her from looking at the horrid sight. CL sent a look Sebastian's way. Sebastian understood what CL was asking and walked over to the body. He looked closely at the man's wounds. "How awful!" Okay. My brain froze, sorry. "How awful!" Bard said, still gripping his pillow in his arms. Sebastian sent a look back to CL. "So that's it then," CL said with a frown. "Stand back!" A voice boomed. "Don't touch!" Everyone turned to see Lord Barrymore. Angelina started to cry again at the sight of the man. CL consoled her while keeping a sharp glare on the man. "I see it was James, then," Lord Barrymore said, looking at the body. "He was the bad dog." "Yes," a villager said. "He broke the legal restriction on dog ownership. He had 6 dogs, one more than is allowed." "A 6th dog," Lord Barrymore said. "Then this was inevitable." "That's all you can say?" Barb exclaimed. "Really?" "This village is under my rule and no other," Lord Barrymore said. "The demon hound protects that rule. As guardian of the Barrymore family, it punishes anyone and everyone who dares challenge me." The villagers started to chant about good dogs and bad dogs as they lifted the now dead James onto a stretcher and walked away. "I'm sure one of you outsiders would be its prey," Lord Barrymore said. "You got lucky this time. Heed my words and leave lest you want to lose something very dear to you." Lord Barrymore looked at the whimpering Angelina, who was clinging to CL. All the servants stepped closer to CL, and Angelina with slight glares. Without another word, Lord Barrymore and Angela, I think I'm saying her name wrong, Angela, walked away, following the crowd of villagers. "Well, master?" Sebastian questioned. CL remained silent as he looked down at Angelina and gently petted her head. They all headed back for the Barrymore Manor without another word. The servants bid good night and made sure Angelina was all right before going back to their rooms. Shortly after arriving back in CL's room, Sebastian changed CL and Angelina into their nightwear and bid them good night before leaving. CL gently rocked Angelina for a moment before laying her down in her crib. She instantly started to cry. CL quickly picked her up. She clung to him, shaking in fear. "It's all right, Angelina," CL said, holding her against his chest and rubbing her back. "They won't be able to hurt us." Angelina still wouldn't let go of Ciel, no matter how much he tried. He sighed and decided he would just let her sleep with him. He laid down and blew out the candle near his bed. Angelina was snuggled up against him before peacefully falling asleep. Ciel looked down at her for a moment before gently stroking his fingers down her face. "I won't let them hurt you," Ciel said before closing his eyes and drifting off to sleep. Chapter 12. Ciel was sleeping rather soundly until he heard a faint cry. It took him a moment to figure it out. He realized it was Angelina. He suddenly bolted up, looked around the dark room to see it was still night. He heard whimpering again and looked to his right to see Angelina whimpering and reaching out. He reacted on instinct and picked her up. She quieted slightly but didn't stop with her sad noises. Ciel knew it was about time for her midnight feeding. Luckily, Sebastian seemed to know as well as he showed up a moment later with a bottle. Ciel took it and offered it to the child, who started drinking instantly. "I must say I am surprised," Sebastian commented, looking at Angelina. "What now?" Ciel said, looking at Sebastian annoyed. "You better not be giving me any more of that mommy crap." "No, master," Sebastian said with his signature smirk. I was just under the impression that babies made big fits in the middle of the night with loud wails, yet this one barely whimpers, making it near impossible for even you to hear her. What are you exactly implicating?" Ciel asked, turning more stern and tightening his grip on Angelina. "Just that she acts rather different from the average baby," Sebastian said. "It's almost alarming. You'd think she was scared to cry out." Ciel scowled at Sebastian's words. But they had truth to them. The awful place Angelina was likely born in and kept in until recently. No telling what those awful people might have done to her for just crying. She had no other way of communicating at that moment, yet she was too scared to even use it. Angelina finished her bottle and quieted once more. She snuggled more into Ciel as Sebastian took the empty bottle. You both might want to get some more rest," he said. "Holidays can be exhausting after all." Ciel knew what Sebastian meant, but ignored it. He laid back down with Angelina, making sure she was secure before drifting off to sleep once more. Morning eventually came, and Sebastian went to wake Ciel like always. Once again, Ciel was already up, putting a clean diaper on Angelina. Sebastian thought nothing of it, figuring it would just become part of the routine for a while. He got Ciel ready for the day before Ciel did the same for Angelina. Apparently, Sebastian had convinced the servants to enjoy some time at the pond with swimming and a picnic. Ciel didn't want any part of it and didn't trust any of them and Angelina in the water. Instead, he sat on a chair Sebastian had set up for him with Angelina on his lap. She was playing with a small plush dog Ciel had given to her while watching the servants goof off in the pond. Don't you care to bathe with them, young master?" Sebastian asked. Ciel remained silent as he had paid attention to Angelina. "Oh, I see. Is that the problem? The master can't. I don't see why they're making such a big fuss about this pond," Ciel said, cutting Sebastian off. "Just because you can bathe doesn't make it a resort." "You still intend to make this place into a resort, then?" Sebastian asked. "Naturally," Ciel stated simply as he placed his hand on Angelina's head, making her giggle. "But what about this great demon hound?" Sebastian asked. "Surely you know as well as I do by now," Ciel said, grabbing the demon's attention. "This demon hound is no dog. Shall we discuss it further?" Sebastian leaned down to allow Ciel to whisper in his ear. "Yeah." Angelina looked at the two in confusion. "Now go," Ciel finished. "Yes, very well, master," Sebastian said, straightening up. "You may consider it done. You are very cooperative, especially for someone who hates dogs," Ciel commented as Angelina went back to playing with her plush. "Yes, I detest them," Sebastian said. That's why I'd like to finish this as quickly as possible, preferably before it goes all to hell." He walked off to fulfill what Ciel had asked. Angelina simply looked up at Ciel as if she was asking about their conversation. Ciel simply smirked and placed his index finger in front of his lips. Angelina copied him. We got him! Someone yelled, catching CL's, Angelina's, and the servants' attention. The bad dog's been caught. We got to chain this dog. Hurry! The punishment is about to begin. Several townspeople were running off to somewhere. The group decided to see what the fuss was about. They arrived behind an angry crowd of people who were all shouting things about a bad dog and punishment. Angelina clutched her plush dog tighter as she saw a man beating a chained-up dog. What a bad dog, Lord Barrymore said as he watched the man beat it. He deserves punishment. Get started. The other dogs were set loose and attacked the chained-up one. CL quickly turned Angelina away and clutched her tightly to his chest. She started to tear up when she could hear the dog's whimpers. Stop this, Finney suddenly said. You can't do it. It's awful. Just let the poor thing go. He suddenly picked up a large stake and batted away all the dogs that were attacking it. I said stop. Finney! Everyone exclaimed as they ran up to him while he kneeled in front of the wounded animal. They interfered, a man said from the crowd. They interrupted, a woman yelled. Punish them. They must be punished. Angelina cried out louder as she was ripped out of CL's arms as he was chained to the wall. The servants were all tied up against the giant stake Finney had used, and they were all gagged. Angela held the crying Angelina. Not so powerful now, are you? Lord Barrymore said with a smirk, looking at CL. CL did his best to keep a straight face, but he didn't like where the situation had gone, especially in Angelina's case. Master, I beg you, Angela cried out, catching Barrymore's attention. Show mercy this one time. These people don't deserve the punishment. You have a point, he said, looking at CL. This little Pomeranian is the Queen's guard dog, after all. If he can be made to see reason, perhaps I'll decide to let him go. Leave this village immediately, and advise Her Majesty to never send any of her minions near to again. You're so pathetic, CL said, keeping a straight face. You rely on lowly tricks to remain your meager power. If there's a stubborn dog here, I'd say I'm looking at him. Lord Barrymore growled at CL's answer. If that's your final choice. He suddenly snagged Angelina out of Angela's arms, making her drop her plush dog and making her cry harder. You can learn what happens to a dog that challenges me. He placed the wailing infant down in the mud and stood back with an evil smile. Get her. CL felt time slow for a moment. His blood had run cold, and he couldn't deny the feelings of fear in him. It was, however, soon erased when Sebastian appeared, scooping Angelina up and knocking away the dogs. Angelina quieted down slightly and looked up at Sebastian. She gripped the edge of his coat as tears still fell down her face. You cut that close, CL said with a frown. It won't happen again. Sebastian said, cradling Angelina. Trust me. You dare interfere, dog? Lord Barrymore explained. Well, what are you mangy mutts waiting for? Kill them now! The attack dogs growled at Sebastian, making Angelina scared again. Shameful, Sebastian said, turning Angelina away so her face was buried in the crook of his neck and keeping a hand on the back of her head. What coarse, noisy growls they have. One of the reasons I despise these creatures. He sent all the dogs a deathly glare with his demon eyes, making them all lay down, wagging their tails quietly. What the hell? Lord Barrymore yelled. What did you do? Your pitiable farce ends here, Barrymore, CL said, turning the attention back to him. Listen, there is no demon hound. It's all a lie. That is just him, an old man obsessed with power, determined to keep it no matter what. What? Barrymore said in alarm. What evidence do you have? There's this, Sebastian said, presenting a skull with one hand while using the other to firmly hold Angelina. We found it in your mansion. I took the liberty of confirming that the teeth marks on James match the teeth marks on the skull. Do you see it now? Everyone turned to see the demon hound's shadow in the sky, but then noticed the protector on the ground. The truth behind the demon hound. Its shadow is nothing but a projection, just a transparent trick. The glowing is phosphorescent dust sprinkled on a normal dog. The devil hound is merely an illusion, CL said, a story made up by an evil man. The man you let rule your village. This man, Henry Barrymore. No, it's all nonsense, Barrymore retorted. You can't fool them. Where's your evidence? You can rest, Sebastian said, kneeling next to the fatally wounded dog. Your duty is done. Taken from here. He took a piece of cloth out of the dog's mouth. What fine material. I wonder why the dog was eager to hold on to it until the last moment. Interesting behavior, don't you think? What the hell? Barrymore exclaimed in fear. Yours, Sebastian said sternly. A scrap of cloth from your pants, torn off by James' dog when you attacked his master. You recognize it, yes? Give up, Barrymore, CL yelled. It's all over now. The townspeople pulled up Barrymore's pant leg to see a bite mark on his ankle. They had seen all they needed to and angrily grabbed Barrymore. Punish James, killer! Punish James, killer! They angrily chanted as they carried him off. My goodness, I'm so glad that's over. Yes, I am, Marion said as Sebastian freed them all. Now look what the oaf has done. CL said, holding Angelina once more. Her new clothes are ruined, and she's positively filthy. I can see to her clothes while you bathe her, Sebastian said. Nothing I can't fix. CL saw Angelina's plush dog and picked it up for her. She sadly held it. They all looked at Finney, who cried as he cried over the corpse of the deceased dog. Angelina cried at the sight. There you go, Sebastian said, noticing Angelina's tears. Yet another reason why I hate dogs. Dark clouds started to form and thunder started to rumble. Everyone headed back for the manor before they could get soaked. CL headed straight for the bath as Sebastian quickly got to work. CL handed Sebastian Angelina's clothes and shut the door. CL took off his clothes as well and sat in the bathtub with Angelina. She still seemed to cling to CL as he cleaned the dirt and mud off of her. CL knew the events of the day had likely traumatized her yet again. He couldn't help the disappointment he felt. He had taken Angelina in with hopes to protect her, yet she still only seemed to get hurt. He suddenly felt Angelina's hand on his cheek. He noticed that she was wiping his tears away. That was twice now that he had let someone else see such a side of him. He smiled slightly at her, showing her that he was all right. After a while, CL and Angelina got out of the tub and dried off. Sebastian showed up with clean clothes for both of them, and helped them change. He also presented Angelina with her plush dog, now cleaned. She squeezed it tightly as CL held her and looked out of the window. Yet another case closed, eh? CL said as Sebastian packed their bags. We can leave the village when the rain lets up. Indeed, Sebastian said. Suddenly there was a loud scream. CL and Sebastian rushed down the stairs to see the cell Barrymore had been in was destroyed with blood splattered on the remaining stone. He's gone, Bard said, dropping his cigarette. Bloody hell. Where is Lord Barrymore? Angela asked in fear. They heard a loud knock at the front door and rushed to see who it was. A man stumbled in, looking winded from running all the way there. The demon hound, he said, panting as he stood on all fours. The great hound is here. Everyone headed out to the graveyard to see where the commotion was. Everyone from the town was chanting and looking forward with blank eyes. What's happening? Sebastian asked. Snap out of it, Bard said, grabbing the shoulder of one of the townspeople. What are you all doing? Suddenly there was a strike of lightning, and the corpse of Lord Barrymore could be seen. Everyone, save CL and Sebastian, screamed. CL gave Sebastian a look. Sebastian knew what he meant and walked over to the body to examine it. He held up Barrymore's right arm to show that his hand was missing. Angela fainted, and Angelina whimpered. Once again, CL turned Angelina away, so she wouldn't have to look. Chapter 13. Well, this is unfortunate, Master, Sebastian said after everyone had gathered back into the Barrymore's manor. To think, all this happening after the case was closed. I'm sure you're a bit annoyed. He smirked in CL's direction. Are you quite finished? Sebastian asked from where he was sitting with Angelina in his arms. Where's Angela? Sebastian suddenly asked. We'll let her rest up in her bed for now, Marion said, clasping her hands together in worry. She seemed tired. Yes, she does. Too pitiful to watch. Bard said, looking off in thought. The poor girl. This village isolated itself completely from the rest of society out of fear of the demon hound's curse. CL said before looking down at Angelina, who thankfully was playing with her plush toy cheerfully. I thought for certain the hound was an illusion created by Lord Barrymore, so he could more firmly rule the village. But with him dead... CL paused as Angelina looked up at him in confusion of what was going on. I need to rethink things. He was covered in bite wounds, Bard said, placing his hand on the back of his neck. Maybe the villagers are right. Maybe there was the demon hound. Maybe he's upset being blamed for the Lord's misdeeds. Marion said, leaning forward, yes, maybe. Sebastian said, smirking at CL again, for now, there's only one thing we know. It wasn't human. The hound, then, Bard said, trying to reach a conclusion. Nobody seemed sure of what was happening in this place. It's quite late, Sebastian said. Best we all turn in for the night. Everyone silently agreed and left the room, heading for their own. CL was rather quiet as he walked back to his room with Sebastian trailing behind him. He continued not to say anything as he changed Angelina into her midnight dress and laid her gently on the bed. It wasn't until Sebastian was buttoning up his nightshirt that he decided to break the silence. Is something the matter? Sebastian asked in a teasing way. It's not what you said earlier, how you phrased it. CL said, looking down at Sebastian with suspicion in his eyes. What you said was, this wasn't human work. What if? CL paused as he spared a glance at Angelina. That bloody Reaper has gotten himself involved with this. It seems you're learning faster every day. Sebastian said, standing up. I'm so very proud of you, sir. But there is no need to worry. I believe Mayron's thought was not wholly incorrect. Sebastian folded CL's clothes and placed them in the wardrobe. A hound was after Lord Henry. I don't believe anyone else is in danger of becoming its victim. That's not enough information for me to close the case, CL said, slightly annoyed. Such loyalty to your queen, Sebastian said with a small chuckle. Quite touching, really. That's not it. Sebastian said, raising his voice ever so slightly. Not all of it. You're usually so cold and steady. But this case seems to have you rattled. I'm curious about this issue you have with dogs. As I said, you learn faster every day. Sebastian said, turning his head to look at CL. He then walked over to the bed and sat down. Angelina noticed and crawled over to him and pulled on his jacket. When he looked down at her, she held out her plush dog to him. I must admit, Sebastian said, placing a hand on Angelina's head. I can't help but think this trip has given me another reason to hate those creatures. Get her! CL heard echoing in his mind, accompanied by the sounds of growling and barking dogs and a baby wailing. He closed his eyes as he took in a sharp breath. He opened them again to look at Angelina as she smiled and played with her plush dog. He hoped his prediction was wrong. The bloody Reaper had already taken his aunt. He wouldn't let him hurt his Angelina as well. CL sat down on the opposite side of the bed, facing back to back with Sebastian. Angelina let out a happy giggle as she placed one hand on CL's and the other on Sebastian's and looked up at them. They both looked down at her, trying to hold back the smallest smiles. Chapter 14. CL wasn't sure how to explain when he felt something was wrong. He would never admit to being paranoid out loud, but sometimes the smallest guts of unexpected wind would make him flinch or itch to reach for the gun. Sorry guys, that happened. Would make him flinch and itch to reach for the gun underneath his pillow. It was when he felt everything was too quiet that he would start to feel a strange chill up his spine. It was as if the world had come out of a sort of standstill, and even the wind had stopped blowing and the animals had stopped crying. He slowly sat up, feeling almost dizzy, and took a moment to let his eyes readjust. For a moment, he felt something was missing. It barely took him another second to realize a small weight was near him. His eyes widened instantly. He looked from the bed to the basket a few feet away, empty. Ciel quickly got out of bed and haphazardly threw on his robe before quickly heading for the door. No sooner than that, the door had been opened when he was hit with intense heat of flames and the sharp smell of smoke. He stumbled back as the flames seemed to move at a supernatural rate and started to engulf his entire room. He harshly coughed as the smoke invaded his lungs, hardly able to breathe at all. No matter how he tried, he couldn't call out. He turned to try and escape, to only be faced with the sight of the silhouette of a woman with wings. At his feet were Bard, Mary Wren, and Finny, all with looks of horror etched on their faces and blood dripping from slit necks. In one hand, she held a chain that led to a metal collar that held a black creature covered in feathers with a distinct mark that looked like a deformed hand. In the arm of her free hand, she held a young baby as it cried out in fright. Ciel tried to scream, to call out to someone, to do anything only to remain frozen as he choked more on the smoke. Thou art unnecessary. Thou art unclean. Thou art unwanted. The words seemed to echo all around him, even as he covered his ears in a desperate attempt to block it out. Ciel quickly sat up with a start and breathed heavily as he looked around the room. He was still in the guest room at the Barrymore Manor. There were no flames, no bodies, no terrifying words. Well, this is a change. Ciel turned to see Sebastian sitting next to the fireplace with Angelina in his arms as he drank her morning milk. I can't recall you sleeping through one of her mealtimes since she's arrived. Something disturb your sleep? Ciel scowled as Sebastian gave him a knowing smirk. Damn you. Ciel responded with a small growl. Now, Sebastian said as Angelina finished her milk. He lifted her up to his shoulder and started to pat her back. Using such language around a baby isn't a good idea. You wouldn't want it to be her first word now, would you? So Ciel just remained quiet. Sebastian simply chuckled before handing Angelina to Ciel. Ciel didn't say much as Sebastian helped him prep for the day before leaving to start on breakfast. For a while, Ciel just looked at Angelina as she once again played with her plush dog. He must have been doing so for a while because she seemed to suddenly look at him. Where was my brain? He must have been doing so for a while because she seemed to suddenly be looking at him in what you could describe as a concerned way. She looked at him for a moment longer before holding her dog up to him. He felt confused for a moment before chuckling slightly, understanding she was trying to cheer him up. Don't worry about me, he said as he finally stood up and headed downstairs. He kept a straight face as he walked, but anyone paying attention could tell he was clutching Angelina tightly. Upon arriving in the dining hall, Ciel could see a high chair was placed next to a chair at the foot of the table. He walked over and carefully placed Angelina down and locked her in before sitting in the chair next to her. He absentmindedly pet her soft hair as she continued to play with her plush dog before Sebastian entered. For today's tea, we have a cabinet pudding, Sebastian said as he placed everything down. It was made using local blackberries. You're certainly relaxed, Ciel said suspiciously. Because we're in no hurry, sir, Sebastian responded as he gently patted Angelina's head. Sebastian, hurry! Marian screamed as she bursted open the doors and dashed into the room with Finny behind her. What's the matter this time? Sebastian asked with slight annoyance. Do calm down, please. We looked all over, but we can't find Angela. Angela. I feel like I'm saying her name wrong. I'm twisting it. Yeah, Angela. But we can't find Angela, Finny exclaimed. Oh, is that all? Bard asked as he walked up to the table. Yeah, don't worry about it. She said there were some medicinal herbs growing down by the fen. She went back to go pick some up. That's all. Right now? Finny asked. Why would she? She went all alone when there might be a demon hound out there, Marian exclaimed. Oh, hell. Bard's face fell. What was she thinking going out all by herself? Finny asked. She said she was worried, about you being kind of sick and all. Bard responded. For me? Finny gasped. She went for me? Finny started to tear up before turning and running towards the door. Oh, come on, Sebastian. Let's go help him. Bard exclaimed as he started to run towards the door, too. Sebastian sounded unsure. Bard stopped running and turned to look over his shoulder. Hurry! Are you a red-blooded man, or aren't you? Fine then. Let's go, Mayrin. Sir, yes, sir, Mayrin said with a salute. Where's Tanaka? Bard asked before looking over to see Tanaka excitedly bouncing from one foot to the other, wearing an explorer's outfit and carrying a rifle. That's the spirit. Okay, let's move out, men. Sir, yes, sir, Mayrin responded once more before they all ran out the door. Ciel was quiet as he finished another bite of his food before wiping his face with a napkin and looking at Sebastian. I'm quite interested. Ciel said with a small smirk. What color is your blood? Sebastian only gave him a deadpan look. At any rate, it looks as if we do need to hurry now. Sebastian sighed as Ciel took a sip of his tea. Go out there and put on a goat show for the both of us, Ciel said, placing his hand on Angelina's head. Am I clear? Perfectly, my young lord, Sebastian responded. Angelina continued to sit quietly, playing with her toy until they all heard a loud howl coming from outside. She turned to look out the window before looking at her toy once more. She reached over and tugged on Sebastian's jacket. He turned her way. She pointed at her toy with a tilt of her head. It sounds like the show's about to start, Ciel said, standing up and picking up Angelina. Understood, my lord, Sebastian said as they exited the manor. Ciel and Sebastian thought they might find the servants in a bit of trouble, but not quite to this extent. They saw a giant hound dog with bright red eyes ready to bring its giant claws down on Finny before Sebastian easily dashed into action and caught the animal's paw before it could hurt the young blonde. Would you look at that? Sebastian said with a smirk. So well trained. You even know how to shake hands. You were just in time, Finny said in a bit of a frightened daze. But I'm afraid, well trained or not, you'll have to go now. Sebastian ignored Finny before pushing his hand up under the hound's paw and sending it flying into a rotted stone wall. Come, this is no time to be playing with a puppy, Ciel said, placing one hand on his hip while his other hand held a mesmerized Angelina. Master, young mistress! The servants exclaimed. Certainly, Sebastian responded. I shall finish it off at once. The hound got back up again, ready to attack again before it started sniffing the air. It smells irresistible, doesn't it, dog? This is what you want, right? Sebastian pulled out a box. Unico. The dog treat no dog can refuse. Dog treats? The servants cried out, confused. The hound dog's mouth started to drool before it jumped at Sebastian happily. Look out, Sebastian, Mayrin cried. There's only one way to properly train a bad dog. Sebastian ignored her. You must teach the creature to obey your every command, using rewards and punishments. Firstly, reward. Sebastian jumped onto the hound's head and started to scratch its nose. The hound seemed to be pleased as it landed on its feet. Okay, what's he doing now? Finny asked. I guess this is training? Mayrin said unsure. Sebastian quickly jumped up. And now, punish. Sebastian kicked the hound dog in the face, knocking it down. Reward. Sebastian held out a box of treats, aching the hound to sit up and wag its tail while panting. Punish. Sebastian uppercut the hound. Reward. Sebastian gave the hound dog a belly rub. Punish. Sebastian violently landed on the hound dog's belly. Punish. Sebastian held onto the hound dog's tail and swung it around several times before letting go and sending it flying and hitting another wall. Well, I suppose I did ask him to put on a good show, Ciel said before looking at Angelina. She seemed to be watching Sebastian and the hound with great interest while looking back at her toy a few times. And finally, a hug, Sebastian said before running up to the hound, grabbing it and jumping with it in his arms, and sending it flying back to the ground in an explosion of dirt and rocks. Once the dust cleared, a giant hole could be seen. Sebastian? Finny exclaimed as the servants ran up to the hole and looked down in it. Hello? Barb called out. I don't see him down there, Mayrin exclaimed. Ciel walked up to the hole and looking bored, while Angelina looked amazed. Quit dawdling down in that hole. Get back here right now. There was a silence for a moment longer before, yes, sir. The ground started to rumble and steam started to rise. Ciel calmly backed away while the servants turned and ran as water came bursting like a geyser. Or Oi! What is this? A hot spring? Bard exclaimed. Where's Sebastian? Finney asked. This village is intended to be a resort for the queen. They heard Sebastian started to speak without seeing him. It needs a center attraction, a luxury. Sebastian emerged atop the geyser of water holding a nude man. A way for visitors to relax and forget their cares. That's what we have here, a natural hot spring. Wow, that was amazing! The servants exclaimed as Sebastian jumped and landed perfectly on the ground. And I couldn't find a hot spring or two for my master. Well, then what kind of butler would I be? Sebastian said. The idea is simply unthinkable. The man suddenly started to lick Sebastian's face, making him wince in repulsion. I don't know how much more of this I can take, Marin exclaimed, getting another nosebleed. Ciel quickly covered Angelina's eyes with a small blush. Pluto! Angela called out as she came running down towards the group. Pluto? Bard asked. Bard jumped out of Sebastian's arms and ran over to Angelina on all fours before knocking her over and licking her face. Angela started to pet his head as he laughed. Good boy, my good boy, she said as the servants looked confused. After Pluto calmed down and started to rest on Angelina and Angela's lap, she looked up at the group. I'm sorry for the confusion, she said. This is Pluto. I found him last month. I've always been a big dog lover, and he was so adorable I absolutely had to take him in. Adorable. Finney and Mayrin questioned while looking at each other. He does have a bad habit of turning human when he gets excited, Angela said as he patted his head. A habit? Bard exclaimed. You call that a habit? So you sheltered and fed it for a month without telling anybody else, Sebastian stated. That's right, Angela responded. Lord Barrymore used the legend of the demon hound to control the villagers, but in truth, he feared the hound more than anything else. I didn't know what would happen to Pluto if he found out. I see now I was too indulgent. I never thought this sweet boy could hurt Lord Barrymore. She looked up at Sebastian. I beg you, sir, please take him with you. I know it's in imposition, but would you bring him to live at the Phantomhive Manor? You want us to keep that monster? Bard exclaimed. He needs a firm hand, Angela said. I think if Sebastian were there to train him, he would become a good dog. No, thank you, Sebastian said in annoyance. I'm a butler. Not one hell of a dog trainer. Why not? Ciel responded. Everyone turned to look at Ciel, who was still covering Angelina's eyes. Master, is this an order? Sebastian asked as his brows furrowed. It is, Ciel said with a smirk. I think I'll find it amusing in several ways. Sebastian only sighed in annoyance. Suddenly, everyone heard a loud rumble and turned to see the villagers running towards them. The curse of the great demon hound is lifted. A villager cried as they fell to their knees. Oh, thank goodness, we're finally free. What's this all about? Ciel asked. My lord, Angela said, there is a legend in this village that when the sins of our ancestors against dogs have been fully atoned for, the land will reap tears of forgiveness. Don't they realize that the hot springs have been here under the ground all along? Sebastian asked. Likely not, Ciel responded. At any rate, our work here is done. I seem to recall you were forced to eat your words earlier, Sebastian said with a smirk. Would you like to say it again now that's true? Why don't you do it? Ciel said in annoyance. This case is now officially closed, Sebastian exclaimed. With the chaos dealt with, construction of the Queen's Resort finally started to commence. Ciel was busy getting the project started and keeping it on track. He had to begrudgingly leave Angelina in Sebastian's care more often. One afternoon, Sebastian convinced Ciel into trying the hot spring for himself. Angelina was outside with the servants, seated on a picnic blanket, and once again playing with her plush dog. Pluto was asleep in his dog form close by. I must fetch the master some tea, Sebastian said as he stood up. The three of you must watch the young mistress. Do not let her leave this spot, understood? So the servants shivered under his gaze. Yes, sir, they responded. After Sebastian left, Pluto stirred from his sleep and walked towards the picnic blanket. The servants panicked and quickly stood in front of Angelina. Pluto lightly growled, catching Angelina's attention. She looked up and giggled, catching the servants' attention. She had her arms up and was opening and closing her hands. The servants weren't sure what she wanted. Suddenly, Pluto leaned forward and started sniffing Angelina. Sniffing Angelina. The servants panicked and tried to push him away before Angelina giggled again before petting Pluto's nose. Pluto gently eased himself down until he was laying on the ground and gently wagged his tail. Well, looks like the young mistress is quite the charmer, Bard said with a laugh. The servants were too distracted by Bard's comment to notice when Angelina's eyes flashed a shade of pink before turning to normal. Oh shit. Chapter 15. Sebastian stood in a hall of the Phantomhive Manor looking unamused at his current predicament. While it was true that CL would sometimes throw the most random things at him, Sebastian still wasn't expecting this. Well, it can't be helped, Sebastian said with a sigh. Off we go, young mistress. We have a long day ahead. Angelina giggled from the baby carrier strapped to Sebastian's chest. Their first stop of the day was the library. Sebastian took a moment to take in his surroundings before placing Angelina down on the floor and handing her over her plush dog. Angelina took it with a grateful giggle. Try to stay in this pot, young mistress, Sebastian said, standing at full height again. He started to move at a great speed as he dusted off the shelves and swept the floor. Angelina watched his movements with great interest as she happily clapped her hands. "Oh, you flatter me," Sebastian said as he finished polishing a globe and got to work on the windows. Angelina suddenly stopped clapping and looked in the direction of a bookcase. She tilted her head in confusion and sniffed the air before slowly crawling towards the bookcase. She thought she heard panicked voices as she got closer. Just before she could reach out to touch the bookcase, she was suddenly picked up by Sebastian. "Young mistress, I told you to stay where you were," Sebastian lightly chided. Angelina reached out her hands towards the bookcase and made grabbing motions. Sebastian looked at the bookcase with a raised brow before smirking and looking away from it with a chuckle. "You're far too young for those books." Sebastian turned and placed Angelina back in the carrier before walking over to a table with a vase of white flowers sitting on top. Sebastian placed a hand on his chin and thought. "It's missing something," he said. Angelina reached over and grabbed a hold of a handkerchief in Sebastian's chest pocket. "Of course," Sebastian said as he pulled out the handkerchief and turned it into a red rose with a flick of his wrist. He placed the rose in the vase and patted Angelina's head. "Brilliant, young mistress." Sebastian quickly picked up her plush dog, handed it to her, and left the library, closing the door behind him. A sigh of relief came from behind the bookcase. "That was a bloody close one," Bard said, gripping a camera. Well, Finny and Mayrin nodded. Sebastian walked into the leisure room and placed Angelina down once more with her plush before he started tidying the room. He had just picked up a red tablecloth when Finny bursted into the room pushing a pool table. "Look out!" Finny exclaimed. Sebastian simply held the tablecloth in front of Finny and the table and moved out of the way like a bullfighter. Finny flew on by and crashed through the wall, landing roughly on the yard outside. Angelina let out an excited cry and held her arms up in the air. "Don't encourage them," Sebastian said, picking up Angelina and heading for his office. He made a quick stop by CL's bedroom to grab Angelina's bassinet. "Hopefully those imbeciles won't interrupt in here," Sebastian said as he placed Angelina down in the bassinet next to his desk. "I kindly ask that you stay quiet while I work." Angelina looked up at him with a head tilt. Sebastian simply nodded before sitting down at his desk and shuffling through numbers. Surprisingly, Angelina remained as well-mannered as ever and just silently played with her plush dog as Sebastian worked. The silence was palpable until it was broken by a loud ring of the service bell. Sebastian sighed as he got up and picked up Angelina. What could he possibly need now? Angelina happily bounced in the baby carrier as Sebastian made his way to CL's study. Sebastian knocked on the door to the study. "Come in," CL said from the other side. "Yes. Did you need something, master?" Sebastian asked as he walked into the room. "It came undone," CL said, referring to the tie that lay limp around his neck. Sebastian rose a brow in slight confusion and curiosity. Of course, my lord, he said, walking over to CL. Angelina giggled and held out her hands as Sebastian leaned down and started to tie CL's tie again. CL indulged her and lightly grabbed a hold of her hands while lightly swinging them up and down. She let out more giggles of joy. After a moment, Sebastian looked over at the window. Angelina looked over as well in curiosity. Sebastian opened the window, and looked around for a moment. Angelina started sniffing the air in confusion. She looked down to see Bard and Marianne hanging onto a ladder. She let out a noise while pointing down at them. They waved their hands around in panic before the ladder started to fall. Sebastian turned away from the window with a small smirk. The young mistress seems fussy, Sebastian said. I better take my leave. CL's eye twitched slightly as Sebastian walked out the door. He stood up from the desk and walked over to the window. He saw Bard, Marianne, and Finny laying flat on the ground with the ladder laying on top of them. I told you that wouldn't work, he called down to them. Sebastian sighed as he finished putting a clean diaper on Angelina. I swear, everyone here is trying to get on my nerves. Angelina gave him another lost look as he picked her up. She firmly patted his shoulder while giving him a determined look. Oh, trying to cheer me on? Sebastian asked with a chuckle. Angelina firmly patted his shoulder again while letting out a little noise. Much obliged, Sebastian said said placing Angelina in the carrier and heading out into the hall. Now, where are those buffoons? After turning a corner, Angelina made a happy noise and pointed. Sebastian looked to where she was pointing at to see the servants all slumped on the floor. There you are, Sebastian said, making the servants gasp. I have a task for the three of you. What is it, Sebastian? Marianne asked. Over there, Sebastian said, pointing at the nearby window. Pluto in his hound form was looking in while wagging his tail. Finny happily ran over to the window to greet the giant demon hound. Angelina laughed while pointing at her plush dog. The mangy pooch? Bard said in confusion. What do you want us to do? We'll be receiving a guest this afternoon. Sebastian responded. That thing is offensive. You are to transfer it out of sight before the guest arrives. He's kind of a big fella, Bard said, rubbing the back of his neck. Where should we put him? I'll let you three figure that out, Sebastian said as he turned to leave. Oi! Bard exclaimed. We've got our own jobs to take care of too, you know. Sebastian stopped in his tracks and turned his head to look over his shoulder with a smirk. You do have until this afternoon. I'm sure you can take care of it in between your other tasks. Sebastian turned his head back and continued onward to the kitchen. Maybe now I can do my own job without any interruption. After a while in the kitchen, Sebastian made his way back to CL's study and placed CL's lunch on his desk before giving Angelina her bottle. He looked over at CL and could see a small look of annoyance on his face. Something wrong? Sebastian asked. No, CL said in a frustrated tone. It's nothing. I think I'll take my supper in here today. Of course, my lord, Sebastian responded as Angelina finished her bottle. He placed the bottle down and held her against his shoulder before patting her back. He looked down at some plastic shoulders and a plastic black ram on CL's desk and smirked in the boy's direction. CL looked away with a scoff. Once CL was done with his lunch, Sebastian moved the plates and silverware onto a tray and headed back down to the kitchen. He suddenly got a bad feeling and walked out to the courtyard. Pluto was curled up, sleeping at the bottom of a stone staircase. They couldn't handle one simple task, Sebastian said in annoyance. I'm beginning to think those three would be more useful as dog food. Angelina giggled and made some grabbing gesture towards Pluto. Honestly, young mistress, there are far better creatures to dote on than this slob, Sebastian said with disdain. Where is a cat when you need one? Sebastian suddenly heard a meow and looked up to see a black cat walking by. Lovely. Sebastian made his way over to the cat and sat down. He gently picked up the cat and placed it on its back on his lap. See, young mistress? Sebastian said as he guided her hand to feel the cat's fur. A lithe, Supple body. Perfect paws. Such soft paws. Sebastian gently squeezed the cat's paws. Cats are perfect. Angelina looked at the cat in wonder as she continued to gently pet its fur. Pluto suddenly shifted into his human form and ran up to Sebastian. He grabbed a hold of the cat and tossed it aside while desperately trying to cuddle up to Sebastian. Sebastian covered Angelina's eyes once with one hand while using the other to push Pluto away. Interrupted again. Sebastian said with a sigh, "Can a butler get no peace around here?" Sebastian stood up and looked down at Pluto with an intense glare. Pluto whimpered slightly. "Woods, now," Sebastian said, pointing in the direction of the woods. Pluto whined before heading over towards the woods. Sebastian let out another sigh before checking his pocket watch. Our guest should be arriving any minute. Angelina looked up at Sebastian with a head tilt. Best behavior, young mistress. Sebastian walked back into the manor and made his way to the entrance just as the carriage arrived. A young man stepped out of the carriage and approached Sebastian. "Welcome, sir," Sebastian said with a bow. The young man removed his top hat and held it to his chest. "Hello," he said. "I'm the writer from the Brit business. Paul Jones, sir." "Indeed, Mr. Jones," Sebastian said, rising from his bow. "We've been awaiting your arrival. If you would follow me inside." Angelina smiled and waved her hands in an almost welcoming way. Paul and Sebastian walked through the front doors and made their way towards the grand staircase. They noticed Ranmo was sitting on the staircase railing. Sebastian paid her no mind while Paul stopped to look and blush. Once Sebastian made it to the top of the stairs, he turned to see Paul was still staring at Ranmo, who was doing several poses. "Coming, sir?" Sebastian asked. "Oh," Paul exclaimed, shaking his head before chasing after Sebastian. "Yes, of course." Sebastian led Paul to a dining room with a very long table. Tanaka was already seated at one far end of the table. Paul sat down at the opposite end of the table and took out a pen and some paper. "If I may, sir," Sebastian said, gesturing to Tanaka. "Allow me to introduce you to Phantomhive's General Director, Tanaka." "Ho, ho, ho," Tanaka said, trying to keep himself from turning into his chibi form. "I'll start on my questions then," Paul said with a smile. "Could you please tell me about Phantom's business strategy moving forward?" "Ho, ho, ho," Tanaka said as he started to lose more steam. "Allow me to explain," Sebastian said, stepping in. "Currently we are focusing on toys and confection, but we intend to expand into other areas as well." Tanaka suddenly lost all his steam and reverted back into his chibi form. Paul was shocked at the sight. "As I was saying, sir," Sebastian said, slamming his hands on the table to get Paul's attention. "Oh, yes," Paul said as he refocused on his pen. The company is working on plans to build outlets across Europe," Sebastian continued. "We'll begin with branches in Paris, Vienna, Berlin, Rome, Amsterdam, and Athens." Angelina happily waved several small flags that seemed to appear out of nowhere. "We intend to expand into 30 countries over the next 5 years, including those in North America." Paul struggled to write down everything as Sebastian continued his speech. "We'll also build a confections factory in the south of France and a toy factory in Salzburg, Austria. This will ensure an ample supply of our goods is available." "Ho, ho, ho," Tanaka added. We at the Phantom Company always strive to maintain and improve the quality of goods and service supplied to our customers. No item leaves one of our factories without first being subjected to numerous quality assurance tests. Only then can a product bear the name Phantom." Sebastian handed a Phantom bear to Angelina, seemingly out of nowhere. She happily squeezed it with a big smile on her face. "Ho, ho, ho. Our motto is the customer always comes first. Our delivery system allows us to arrive at your business or residence, quality in hand in record time, however remote the location. Customer satisfaction is guaranteed. That is the Phantomhive way." Angelina held up a sign with the Phantom logo on it. "See, that's everything," Sebastian finished with a calm smile. "Ho, ho, ho. Thank you very much," Paul said, patting the sweat off of his forehead. "But before I go, I would like to get an autograph, if I may." "A photo," Sebastian said in surprise. I'd like to have you in the shot, too," Paul said, pulling out a camera. "I'm afraid I must decline." Sebastian said with a polite smile, "You see, I am simply one hell of a butler." Paul felt too exhausted to respond. He quickly took the picture and left the manor with a tired sigh. "I think that went well," Sebastian said as he headed to the kitchen to get CL's snack. Angelina let out a small squeal, like she agreed, while squeezing her new bear. Sebastian placed the food on the tray and headed for CL's study. He noticed CL looked even more miffed than before as he served his food. "Today we are serving Demon Hound bean cakes, manufactured in Houndsworth," Sebastian said with a small smirk. CL stabbed into one of the cakes with his fork and held it up. "Why are you serving me this rubbish?" he asked before eating the cake. Barb and the others purchased quite a few of them. "How was the interview this afternoon?" "I only wish you could have been there, my lord. Tanaka was really quite extraordinary." "That's good. A distinguished old man that makes... Excuse me, Jesus! A distinguished old man makes a suitable face for the company." "Yes." The interviewer said... My English... Yes. The interviewer asked to take a photograph before he left. "Did he?" "Apparently, portrait photos are all the rage among the nobles lately." "Are they?" "I know, young master." "Why not try your hand at it yourself?" "No." Sebastian chuckled as CL continued eating. Angelina suddenly started to fuss. "It seems it's time for the young mistress' dinner," Sebastian said. "Please excuse me, my lord." Sebastian headed down to the kitchen and prepared a bottle for Angelina. She happily drank while Sebastian used his free hand to wipe down the kitchen counters. Once Angelina finished, Sebastian started to burp her while he suddenly felt a jolt in his mind. He let out a small smirk before placing Angelina back into the carrier. "Seems we're needed, young mistress." Angelina simply gave him another head tilt. Sebastian suddenly dashed out of the kitchen and into the courtyard where he saw CL and pushed him put down to the ground while shielding his body from a falling statue. Sebastian looked down at CL with a blank look while Angelina let out a giggle. "What a charming picture the three of you make," Lau said as he walked out from behind a nearby tree with Ranmo. "You're late," CL said in a deadpan tone. "My apologies, sir," Sebastian said. "The young mistress took a little longer with her bottle." CL grunted as the servant slowly came out of the bushes with a camera. "You could have just told me to pose for a picture," Sebastian said. "What?" Sebastian said. "What?" CL responded in shock. "Had you ordered me to, I would have no choice but to do so," Sebastian continued. "Sticking me with an infant to slow me down wouldn't make a difference." "I don't know what you mean," CL said in annoyance, looking away. Sebastian chuckles as he takes Angelina out of the baby carrier and hands her over to CL. "I take it you want her back now?" CL didn't respond as he held Angelina in his arms with a grumpy look. After all the chaos, everyone went back into the manor. CL noticed Angelina was getting sleepy and ordered Sebastian to bring her bassinet to his office. Angelina slept soundly in the bassinet as CL gazed out of the window from his chair. Lau sat in a nearby chair with Ranmo on his lap. They suddenly heard the servant screaming as a loud struggle took place somewhere in the manor. "I wonder what's all that noise about," Lau said. "Do you know, my lord?" CL didn't respond. Later on into the night, Sebastian knocked on CL's study door before opening it. Excuse me, lord. We should prepare you for bed." He was surprised to see CL asleep at his desk with his head leaned against his knuckle and his other hand resting in Angelina's bassinet. "Falling asleep slumped in your chest? My English! Fuck me twice. Falling asleep slumped in your desk chair," Sebastian said as he walked up to CL's desk. "How irresponsible of you." "How typical, I suppose. Once again, you had given me unnecessary work." Sebastian looked at the camera sitting on CL's desk and picked it up with a smirk. He uncapped the lens just as Pluto appeared in the window behind CL's chair. The next morning, the servants were surprised at the picture they saw in the kitchen. "Whoa," Bart said in disbelief as he held the photo. "Sebastian's in the picture!" Benny exclaimed. "That means the young master cares most about Sebastian," Mayrin added. "This is how Tanaka said cameras work, right?" "Interesting," Bart said. Aw, they're good friends, Finny said. That makes the master my rival, Marian said in worry. What do I do? Hey, it's Plu-Plu, Finny exclaimed, pointing at Pluto in the background of the picture. Huh? Hold on a second, Bart said. That means that Sebastian's in the picture because the one who cares the most about him is Pluto? Marian asked. I don't know, Bart said. Or is it the young master we thought at first? Marian asked. Which one? Bart questioned. Meanwhile, in the dining room, Ciel was seated at the table eating breakfast. Sebastian stood next to him, fixing the table while Angelina played with her dog, and Bear sitting in her high chair. I'm honored, master, Sebastian said. Oh, shut up. Ciel said in annoyance. It's your own fault for falling asleep so defensively like that. How dare you? The image in a photograph isn't real, only an illusion. But that is humanity's way, seeking vainly to preserve the image because you fear that one day it may be forgotten. Ciel gave Sebastian an uncertain look. The servants continued to mull over the picture for the rest of the day, wondering what it meant. However, they had focused so much on Ciel, Sebastian, and Pluto that they had failed to look closer at Angelina and the dark figure leaned over her basset with slitted, glowing purple eyes. What the hell? What the fuck? She got a whole demon now? I'm so confused, guys. I am so confused, potentially concerned. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? That is kind of really cool. So this is the last updated story to it. Sadly, this one was uploaded. This chapter was uploaded September 15th of 2023. So it's been a hot minute since they've updated anything. So let's hope the story does get updated. But if it doesn't get updated within probably a trillion years, I'll probably say probably not going to get updated. Hopefully it does, though. It's a pretty good story, especially this chapter. This chapter is good. This chapter 15 is so far my favorite chapter. Oh, whoopsie. So how are you guys enjoying it so far? You like it? We enjoying the story? Sorry I read it so fast. I just couldn't resist. But I really like chapter 15. What's your favorite chapter, by the way, guys? I've never asked that question. What is your favorite chapter? Or do you have multiple favorite chapters? Let me know in the comments down below. My favorite chapter? It's chapter 15 in this beach. It's really detailed. I really like it. And it's a lot of Sebastian in there. And it's freaking hilarious. And it pretty accurately writes down what kind of mostly happened in the episode. Honestly, if y'all haven't watched Black Butler, what are y'all doing? Watch some Black Butler. It is so worth it. It is so good. Ain't lying to you guys. But yeah, this shit is good, guys. This is really good. I really like it. For some side notes, so technically we have completed one story, and if this story doesn't get updated in a hot minute, we could go on and read another story. I'm probably gonna read one that is suggested or one that I really wanted to read to you guys, bring it up front. Or I might make one that votes and then one that I pick. I don't know, because there's been a lot of suggested stories, and I really want to read them because they have been suggested personally by some subscribers, and I personally think that they deserve to be read. So we'll just have to see what it goes from there. I might wait a little bit to kind of get everything in check first before I go ahead and read another story. We'll just have to see. We really have to see. Anyways, guys, I hope you did enjoy it, though. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing videos, guys. Big girl's gotta go. Bye and peace.